the best way to find out how a man is going to treat you isn't how he treats his mom. It's how his dad treats women. Let me explain. Because generally speaking, temperament is heritable. Taste is heritable, right? The way you behave is heritable. So if the dad is misogynistic, it treats women badly, we're not saying he's gonna do that, but it increases the likelihood of him doing that. Okay. Children learn how to treat and how to think about the opposite sex through observation. So if all he saw was daddy being a dick to his mom, or if all he saw was dad worship his mom and treat her with respect, that's exactly what he's gonna imitate. It's not only heritable, but it's also learnable. Okay. And also, let me tell you something. Addictions, just like addictions, like a crack baby, right? Sometimes you have a freak baby where a dad might be addicted to sex, might have compulsive sexual disorder, and that is transferable to a child. Those are things that's going on in the brain, right? So what you want to be able to do is look for family patterns, not just romantic. Okay. So that means that just like looking at how a woman's father appearance predicts who she'll date, so does how a father sees women will predict how his son will also see women. By the way, if you'll notice that women will date men who look similar to their fathers if they got raised with them. So this is how it is, right? You have Melissa 1.0, you have daddy, and you have his creepy little son, right? And they're fighting and it's causing havoc inside the home. Okay, he's observing that consciously or unconsciously. That little kid is observing that. So then when he grows up, he meets a Melissa number 2 and he copies it. In fact, he might even date a woman that looks similar to his mom. And the thing is that narcissism sometimes isn't heritable, it's learned. Okay? So if you want to see how he'll treat you, don't look at how he treats his mom, because sometimes it's sympathy. Notice how he treats the women, right? So sex addiction can be heritable. Taste in women can also be heritable. So sometimes these types of guys, unfortunately, have a taste for weak women. If dad was abusive towards mom, that means that mom, a lot of the times, unfortunately, was more docile. She took that abuse, unfortunately, right? So guess what? He's going to be attracted to women that tolerate that type of abuse. But also, this woman most likely learned that through imitation. Most likely she saw mommy stay, right? So what does that mean? She might also have a taste for this type of guy because she was raised, mommy chose to marry him. And so a lot of the times the taste in people that you desire can also be heritable. You know, so that's why it's kind of like, why do I like this type of person? Well, most likely look at your parents. Most likely it's a heritable thing, and that's how this cycle is perpetuated throughout generations. If you guys are enjoying this video, if you guys want to learn more, you guys can check out my course, The Commitment Formula, The Psychological Game of Attraction for Single Women, and Natural Chemistry for Women who are in relationship. All of those courses come with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Just click on the description down below, or else I'm closing the channel. Let's continue with the next point. Truth is that some men don't show you who they are. They slowly reveal who they've always been. All right. So if people say, it's like when people get a pit bull, right? And it's a shelter dog, you know, and he's been around the pound for a long time. And then one day the owner just said he was nice to me until he just snapped. Okay. I never saw that coming. All right. That happens a lot. Okay. And it's not that by the way, people, I don't hate pit bulls. It's just that sometimes people who get pit bulls get it for the wrong reasons, and they neglect the poor dogs, and it puts them in a position for the dogs to be violent, right? They neglect them, they let them get away with bad behavior. But the point is that when that dog snaps, when you get a rescue and it snaps, it's not that the dog changed, right? It's just that the dog has always been that. It's just slowly revealing to you who he really is, right? And people are the same in a very weird way, right? Where you only know who a person is by their patterns. Okay, the patterns reveal that. Now you guys are looking at this drawing, and this drawing represents your dark side, your light side, and who you show to your friends and family, or who you really are, right? This is who you show to your friends and family. This is who you see in the first month, even in the first date, right? And this is who you tend to see once they get comfortable with you. And this is who they truly are. The problem is that most people either see themselves as the dark side or the light side, but they don't realize a true human is always in the middle. You're neither completely bad and you're neither completely good, right? But the problem is that it's very difficult to accept this, because it means you got to integrate the parts of you that are embarrassing, that are weak, that are contrary to what you show, right? And the good side allows you to justify bad behavior, which allows the dark side to be suppressed. I mean, humans are very complicated. So it's very normal for you to only see this in the beginning, because that's the side that they're proud of. That's the side that they think that they are, right? But they are also in denial of this dark side. These are their compulsive habits, right? This is where their addictions lie. This is where their cheating lied. This is where they were abused. This is where they abused. This is the parts of them that they're embarrassed about. The fact that they can't control their spending. The fact that they do have gambling addiction. The fact that they do have an anger problem. The fact that they do have compulsive problems, right? The fact that they have a shameful past. And so, but the more they repress this side, the stronger it gets, right? And the thing is that people are really good at acting. People are really good actors, but the problem with acting is that it has its limit. You only tend to see this side, you only tend to see the good side in the first few months. Once they get comfortable with you, once they know that you're dependent on them, right? Once they feel some power over you, not in a negative way, it could be innocently, but it could just mean that, you really like them and they're getting comfortable. When they get comfortable, that's where this comes out. Right? Remember, you're most aggressive towards those who are closest to you. The people who unfortunately will kill you is not fucking Tyrone the crackhead. it's not the crackhead from the corner. It's usually going to be someone who's close to you and somebody who can show you their dark side, right? So, but also, if they do have drug problems, you don't see their drug problems at the beginning. You usually see it after a few months, right? You usually see their inconsistency after a few weeks and after a few months, right? What you want to be able to do is find this out. You usually find this out, like I said earlier today, you usually find it out by looking at their family dynamics. The type of dark side it has runs in families. And so a lot of the times they'll reveal it unconsciously because they're talking about their family shadows, their family's darkness. And what they want you to believe is that they're not that. And I want you to understand that I don't want to discriminate, but we know Father Alex discriminates on this channel when it comes to these two patterns. I don't give a fuck. I don't care. Unfortunately, there's a saying that says, like father, like son, right? And the family runs together. You could look at the father. Was his father addicted to drugs? Did his father unfortunately beat his mom, for example, right? Does his father have anger problems, right? And what they'll tell you, move your hair, people, right? There you go. What they tell you is that they're not like their fathers, and maybe that's true. The problem is that sometimes they haven't fully become who they really are, right? In your 20s, you could hide the darker parts, but as life gets to you, as failure occurs, as disappointments start to accumulate, it becomes very difficult for you to just hide this good side, right? It becomes very difficult for you to show this side. What happens is that this side of, oh my God, Father Alex, stop moving. No, sorry about that. This side will become more predominant in a person's life. most often than not. Because shadows, they grow. Shadows grow in people. And they grow over time. As your willpower weakens, as you get older, you're not able to do the things that you could before, right? And as your compulsivity increases, because compulsive behavior creates more compulsive behavior. As this increases, the harder it is for you to hide the side. And what happens is that the more mature a man's shadow is, the more contrast you'll see between what you met in the beginning and who they are after they get in a relationship. And sometimes this transition doesn't happen from dating to boyfriend. It could happen from dating to marriage, or maybe it can happen from dating, marriage, and then once you have a kid with them, that's when it comes out. And a lot of times, it resembles the very family that they said that they're not. This is why it happens. It's because a lot of the times when we're raised in an abusive household, we are ashamed of our parents. We are ashamed of our situation. We are ashamed about the abuse that maybe happened in that man's life. And so because of that, he is in denial of who he is. He may have the same compulsive drives that the people who he hates the most have, right? And so you can see how it could create a lack of self-awareness because of that. This is why I tell you guys, and I hate to be Mr. Discriminator. Oh my God, Father Alex discriminates. I'm sorry. But when it comes to people, look at their family dynamics, like I said earlier. It will save you so much time and effort, all right? So remember, this is, and look, this could be him. This could be him, honestly. This is a part of him, in fact. He could be that nice guy. He could be charismatic, but because of lack of self-love, but because he can't control his emotions, his lack of compulsive control, he does things that will hurt him. He does things that go against his will, goes against his benefits. He does it, and what happens because he can't control it, he hides it to himself, and he doesn't tell you and others because it's shameful. The things that arises from compulsive behavior, a lot of the times becomes shameful. And so you repress that shame, and it becomes part of your personality, right? And it comes out in like a huge waterfall, and usually it just catches us by surprise, like a pit bull, right? You just, oh my God, he was normal, he was sweet, he was the best pit bull ever. Why did he eat my baby? Speaking of babies, right? So the next one is, a man's promises matters less than his patterns, okay? And this is the thing. When you're somebody who is hungry for validation, put your hair lower, there you go. When you're the type of person that unfortunately has low self-worth, and again, when I say low self-worth, I don't mean that you think you're inferior. What it means is that most likely as a child, where's my graphics people? Most likely as a child, your parents, when you were sad and crying, when you were screeching, your parents didn't fully validate you, right? Your parents most likely didn't soothe you, all right? They didn't say, calm down, little creepy baby, right? And what happens is that you end up believing that you're not worthy of love, you're not worthy of attention, right? And when that happens over time, when you're crying, or you feel sad and lonely, and your parents are too busy because of problems in their life, or they're too busy working, you end up believing that you're not worthy of that, okay? And also your emotions don't get calmed down, meaning you don't go from sad and crying to calmness. So what happens? Your body's neural pathways, the neural pathways of calm, relax, and feeling at home, they don't get reinforced through touching and words of validation and feeling secure. And so those pathways are not they're not used as often, right? And so you grow up and you feel agitated, but you don't have any resources, and you never learned how to calm down, right? So then what happens is that you resort to pit bull energy, right? You resort to getting angry, right? I mean, look at this pit bull. Most pit bulls are pit bulls not because they're born angry, right? But because a lot of times pit bulls attract, sorry, I've got to separate the kids and the pit bull. Pit bulls attract owners who have, who neglect the dog. Let's just be honest with you, right? So let's go back to this. Sorry about that. I got a little distracted. Sorry, I got to separate the pit bull and the baby, because I'm gonna lose all the pit mommies on this channel. So his patterns matter more, okay? And these patterns arise because most likely as a child, he wasn't soothed. So he developed certain patterns. Maybe he has anger issues. Maybe he smokes crack, is a drug addict. Maybe he has gambling issues. Maybe he's a controlling person. But the reason why he has those traits is because his parents didn't teach him other ways to be happy, meaning they didn't give him the attention that he needs. And so these negative patterns that he hides from you are a coping mechanism. But the problem is that he denies it. These guys, and this is everyone, they deny their negative traits. because it's embarrassing, it's shameful, right? I mean, most likely they tried to change, but they couldn't, right? So rather than change, they minimize the problem, right? Or they hide their own patterns from themselves, right? And so what happens is that after 2 or 3 months, maybe they had a gambling problem, or maybe they don't know how to spend their money, or maybe they're actually trying to change and they're with you and they're like, okay, I'm gonna be different now. And guess what? After 2 or 3 months, once he gets to know you, once the dopamine wears off, and remember, dopamine sometimes can be a soothing balm to calm your compulsive, controlling, negative habits, actually. So you can see a positive change at the beginning. You can see someone different. But as you see him, as you get to know him, as he grows comfortable with you, his dark side comes out. Or it could be that maybe he hit you or cheated on you and he promises not to do that anymore. Or he promises to be faithful, or he promises you to give you commitment. But he keeps pushing it to the side. He keeps saying, next time it'll be different. What you're seeing is most likely he's not a bad person. What you'll learn is that most people are not actually bad. What happens is that most people are just conflicted. They have conflicting emotions. And it's a shock to them, and it's also a shock to us, because we think that people are actually consistent, right? Men never do things just once. Men rarely change for good. Some people do change for good, and that's a fact. Some people definitely change for good, and we can't ignore that. But most often than not, in order to change, it requires a few relapses. So maybe this pit bull is trying not to bite children no more, right? But guess what? It takes a few times, a few toddlers, a few grannies for the pit bull to learn not to bite toddlers. People, I do believe that it's not the breed. I'm gonna be honest with you. I do believe it's not the breed. I do believe that, unfortunately, pit bulls are the animals that are the dogs actually that go through the most abuse. It's actually kind of sad. No wonder he's a pit bull. Look, he's mad. He's not mad because a child sneezed too fast. He's pissed off because he's never been shown love. That's a true little pit bull. It's okay. I love you, little pit bull. It's true. People, you guys have to understand, man. I'm an obsessive person. Right now, my obsession are pit bulls and the fake propaganda by their owners, right? So look at what he does. Okay. So if you want to look who he is, not only look at his father, but look at his patterns, right? So I'm worried when a guy says, "I used to have a gambling problem." Not anymore. Oh, you used to? Oh, okay. Oh, I used to smoke weed. Not anymore. Oh, okay. Let me tell you something, people. And let me give you a real truth of human nature. And I hope you guys remember this from this. Anytime somebody quits a habit, but they don't quit with support, they usually gain a new habit. So I learned this from when I used to work at this place called Gadenzia in Philadelphia. It's a drug rehab place. And one of the dangers I said is that if you quit alcohol on your own, you're gonna gain a new habit. You might start smoking weed. A lot of people who stop smoking weed might start drinking it more, actually. A lot of people who stop smoking weed might start, they might start gambling more, right? It's because they're trying to get some high, some adrenaline, right? So they go from addiction to addiction. And the problem is that they don't notice it, because in their mind, they're escaping that addiction. But it's like escaping from a pit bull and going straight into the mouth of an alligator. In fact, a lot of the times, when you stop doing that habit, you actually start doing something else even worse, actually, right? So it could be that the guy you're dating doesn't see women no more, right? Stops cheating. But if he doesn't do it in a support group, that dude is gonna find other ways to express that compulsion for validation. Like it's a compulsion that he needs to understand its true nature. You can't just fix it by yourself. Right? So it could be that he stops drinking, but now he has more of a temper because he was using drinking to lower his temper. So now you might see another problem. I recommend people, and I say this because of the research. To break actual patterns for the lifetime, especially deeply ingrained patterns that came because of traumatic childhood, you have to do it in a group. There's no other way around it. Yeah, maybe you could stop. For example, like people who stop smoking weed, they might end up smoking more cigarettes. People who stop smoking weed might end up eating a lot if they don't do it in a group. Or if they don't see a therapist. Plain and simple.
Because this is it's a mental disease that finds another way. So that's the whole point, right? So they may say they may think they stop doing some negative habits, stop gambling, but look out how else is that compulsion manifesting itself, right? How else is that compulsion manifesting itself? So men rarely do things just once. And again, people, I always say my nails are dirty because I draw. Please understand that, okay? People are like, oh, why don't you clean your nails? Because my nails are longer. Don't you notice my nails? Look at this, right? Notice how my nails start at a far further tip. Most people's nails, look at this. You see, my nails start at it's like a further tip. Most people's nails are behind their finger. So any one day of growth and I draw dirty nails, people. Understand that. Y'all gotta stop bullying Father Alex. Oh, I'm gonna fucking close the channel. All right, let's continue, right? So people never do things just once, right? And I say this so that, not to be negative about people, but to understand people. Stop falling for the lies. Stop falling for the lies. You know, it's one of those things that you see all the time because we're dealing with people. We're not gods, all right? All right, next point.
All right, number 4, some men don't control their lust. Their lust controls them, okay? And as we can see here, this is the mask. Looking at a girl, him not being able to control himself. The reason why I made this is because a lot of the times, sometimes sexual attraction to some of these guys can be so intense that they don't even care about connecting with you as a person. And the reason why is because they are misusing a natural instinct. Most likely, men who are filled with lust lack emotional connection with their parents, and somehow, some way, they've learned that sexual attention or sex in general was so pleasurable that they misused it as a way to cope with their emotion. So rather than using it to connect with someone, they use it to escape, right? The connection is to escape. The problem becomes more agitated because of secrecy. These guys, their sexual desires at first start normal, and as years go by, it escalates. And the escalation causes secrecy because of social taboos. And what happens? These guys develop a 2 personality. The things that they're ashamed to admit to people, they do it in secret, just like the mask, 2 personalities, and they develop a split personality. The problem with that, it comes with a lot of lies. It comes with lies and justifications, and they unconsciously become liars. They start lying and they don't even notice it. They seek, another thing about them is that about lust-filled guys, and by the way, because of the lying, it gives them an easier capacity to lie, because lying requires momentum that creates more lies. They seek novelty. That's another thing about them. They seek novelty and the taboo. Whenever you use sex as a way to feel better, eventually the same stimulation doesn't feel good enough because dopamine has its limits. So then you step it up a notch by either 1, novelty, a new girl, a new experience, a new position, or the taboo, whatever is illegal. So it could be, assaulting women. It could be fucking like Epstein, fucking kidnapping people and using them and then killing them, right? It could be a lot of other illegal shit, right? And so this, again, creates the split personality. The problem is that sometimes when you meet people like this, a lot of the times they've developed an external personality. Remember, the shadow side, right? They know that this side is shameful, so they overdevelop the external, this side, right? And this side can look very charismatic, very good, very presentable, right? But again, the more they're split on the inside, the more their outside self doesn't match the inside self, the more toxic and volatile and difficult it is to hide this side is. Eventually, the truth comes out. So what happens is that unchecked lust and secrecy makes commitment harder to these types of guys, right? The unchecked lust and the secrecy makes it harder for them to actually commit to you. But the problem is that a lot of the time they won't tell you that. They'll lie about that until you get cheated on.
Now, there's a warning though. Low self-worth will blind you from the lustful man. You're gonna assume that what he offers is true love. Because a lot of the times when we have low self-worth, usually it means we didn't get enough validation and soothing from our parents. So we don't know what positive attention is. We don't know what unconditional attention is. And so boy or girl, they grow up not receiving unconditional love, and so they fall back to conditional love, which is usually lust, right? So you might find this, and again, this happens to everyone, especially when you're feeling low. I'll take any type of attention if I'm really if I feel shitty about myself. A lot of women will conflate this with actual love, and they'll be surrounded by these men because a lot of the times they shower them with superficial, banal, temporary attention, right? These types of guys usually are the ones that love bomb you, as you guys can see. It's a fucking bomb, right? They love bomb you, and we fall for it. We fall for it because most likely we don't have any other form of attention, or most likely we feel low about ourselves. We have this underlying feeling of unease, this underlying feeling of not being worthy. And so this is what usually happens. This is why it's very important not to judge people. You can't judge people. You can't judge attention whores. You can't judge people who are attention seekers, because a lot of the times they're not bad people. What happens is that they're victims of neglect. And some people, they're victims of actual direct attacks, right? Next one is men that fall in love fast are dangerous, right? That's why I put the love bombing. The reason why is because most likely they're not really falling in love with you. They think they're falling in love with you, but in reality they're just projecting. They're full of lust. When somebody, listen, I always tell people, and I say this in a funny way because it's funny. You're not that lovable, okay? Like honestly, like you're not. Even babies need time to be loved, right? Even where's my creepy little baby? Oh shit, it's only a pit bull. All right, sorry about that. Maybe the pit bull ate the baby. Even babies need time to be loved. You know, I think I heard how when the dad gets to know the baby, it takes a while for the dad to actually connect with the baby. So if a fucking creepy little baby, we need time to like that little motherfucker. What makes you think that a guy's gonna love you the first date? What's going on here is that you're getting drunk on love, you're getting drunk on the tension, right? And you're falling for it. And that's a very normal human thing. This is why it works. It's because it's a human weakness, right? But what happens with these types of people is that when you fall for it, you end up getting disappointed. And when you end up getting disappointed, you start to develop a world view about love, you know? And when you don't get fast love, you don't feel validated enough, you don't get worshipped enough, he's not taking you to those lavish trips. He's not, hey buddy, oh my God, look at the little golden retriever people. Sorry, he's not giving you that validation. And so a lot of times you'll go after somebody who can validate you, not just by telling you what you want to hear, but also giving you superficially something that you can show off to your friends, egoically. Oh, I'm in Dubai. You know? Like, by the way, I can tell you, I don't judge. I don't judge. And the reason why I don't judge is because most of the people who fall for this, they're just victims of just pure and utter neglect. I'm not even saying the parents were evil. It's just pure neglect. Just like somebody who neglects their body because they're eating too much as a way to self-soothe, as a way to deal with their pain, right? Does it mean they hate themselves? No. It's just that they're neglecting themselves, right? And and it's funny because you could easily tell when somebody's love bombing you because they're going too fast, right? They're going way too fast. But deep down we know it's wrong, but the reason why you continue is because you think that this time you're right. This time Father Alex is wrong, you know? Father Alex is wrong this time. Why is Father Alex wearing the same shirt as yesterday? It looks like another day. Why is he wearing the same shirt? Shut up, people, okay? Father Alex is like a cartoon character. Sometimes I wear the same clothes. Sorry about that. So you can't be falling for that. And the way you deal with this is not by watching this video and be like, oh, okay, you know, love bombers are not good. That's not how it works. You can't just download information and make it into wisdom. It requires failure. It requires you going your own way and making mistakes and then coming back and realizing that Father Alex was correct and that Father Alex I was gonna say something else, right? So that's one thing, right? If you're dating a freak, and freaks usually are love bombers, right? Right? He got to get help. If you're dating a guy who has any form of lust addiction, unfortunately, and you can see this, right? They're addicted to porn. They can't. Oh boy, people, they're freaking pit bull. Jesus Christ. Oh boy, here we go. All right. A freaking pit bull, people. All right. Oh, golden retriever. Look, man. Oh my God, he's looking at me. He knows me. They know I talk. Pit bulls know. One of the things about pit bulls is that they gossip, and they know I talk shit about them. The way you deal with these types of guys, unfortunately, is that if you're dating a freak, I'm calling them freaks, right? If you're dating this type of guy, man, like, they can't change even if they want to. You gotta get them to. You gotta tell them to get some help. If they don't want to get help, I would advise you to leave them. There are groups for that. I would recommend first therapy. See if it works, and if not, ask the therapist if there are groups for guys who are freaks, who are lust addicts. Because it is possible to change, but they have to be willing. If they don't think they have a problem, then it's best to find somebody else. I'll be honest with you. All right, let's continue with the video.
Next point, people, and now, let me make sure.
All right, so the next point, ladies and gentlemen, and it's very important. Now, this is not Michael Jackson. It looks like Michael Jackson, but it's not Michael Jackson, okay? It's men aren't actually intimidated by successful women. They're actually intimidated by their masculine energy in successful women. And like I always say, people, I'm always drawing, so y'all gonna see my nails dirty because I use charcoal. It's the nature of the business. I say that all the time because I always get comments like, Father Alex don't shower, you know? But, so what I'm trying to tell you is that men are not intimidated by women's success. They're intimidated by the masculine energy. And a lot of women have told me that when they are successful, and they're good at their job, at their office, they have a tough time shutting it down once they get home, right? And most likely, it's not because you shut it down, but because your masculine energy is your defense mechanism. Most likely, maybe you had to take care of your kid, of your siblings early, right? Maybe you don't want to. Maybe weakness is something that you think is emotional vulnerability is a weakness, right? Maybe you're a hyper competitive person. Maybe you are a thrill seeker. Maybe you have more of like a dominant personality. Most likely, not often, but most likely that could happen because of a defense mechanism. You don't want to get hurt. Something happened that made you put your shield up. And usually what happens, like always, your parents didn't soothe you the way they should have. So rather than get love from others, you defend yourself against people. You push people away. And sometimes the pushing of people away gives you some form of power, some form of control over your life, and that becomes your default state. So when you meet a guy that you like and he's good looking and everything and he treats you nice, you push him away because of your controlling parts, right? It's successful, it gets reinforced in your job, but in your career, but in your romantic life, it doesn't. It's all about the masculine energy. The way to fix this is to first be aware of it. Be aware that most likely your masculine energy is really not something that you consciously have control over that. And the next thing you want to do is develop some form of spiritual practice, some combination of meditation and prayer, and specifically prayer to allow you to see why you are the way like that, and to pray to God to give you the willingness and the strength and the wisdom to change that. Because these defense mechanisms of ours, which is masculine energy, you can't just turn it off. This is something that's outside of your control because it occurred because something outside of your control forced you to develop that shield. It's good for your job. It does attract guys that respect your masculine energy, that submit to your masculine energy, but those very same guys you just don't respect, right? So men are intimidated by that masculine energy, right? And usually the masculine energy is portrayed by your body language, your lack of smiling, emotional coldness, highly ambitious, highly competitive. You don't let people into your life. You never tell people about your problems, your weaknesses, your fears. You don't open up about those things. It's really a lack of trust, right? And almost like a negative, predicting negative things to happen in your life. And so you rely on control. You rely on control as a way to find peace rather than trusting. You got to develop some form of relationship in your life and tell someone about these insecurities in order for this to change. It doesn't just change with you staying inside of your box. It changes by you opening up about these insecurities to somebody else. Therapy, at first, you first open up to yourself and God, and then someone else, right? So you want to lower your defense mechanism, and the way you do that, like I said, is to develop trusting relationships, okay? And at first, try to go to therapy about it and talk to your therapist about it, because, like I said, it's very important to understand your limitations. And unfortunately, with defense mechanisms, some people their defense mechanism is drug addiction. Some people, their defense mechanism is abuse, is anger, right? Some people's defense mechanism is isolation, right? And usually these habits don't just go away on your own, okay? So, funny, like I drew Michael Jackson and I drew a K-pop star by mistake, right? So, an example is Miranda Priestly, right? If you notice with Miranda Priestly, she doesn't have any close relationships. She's intimidating, and it helps with her job. It helps with her business. But every woman who's successful will say, oh, guys don't like successful women. Well, guess what? It's not that you're successful. It's just that you just treat guys like they're the girls. You don't let the guy pay for your dates. You don't tell the guy that you feel sad. You don't tell the guy your vulnerable feelings. You have no trust in guys. Most likely, you just choose guys who submit to your masculine energy. And these guys sometimes are smoochers, guys that want to get a sugar mama, right? A lot of times, the masculinity, the hyper masculinity in the woman will get them to date guys that are younger. Well, that's a common thing for guys. They usually date younger women, right? When you adopt that masculine energy, you'll notice it because the predilection is to date guys that are younger because they validate you, they worship you. Right? And guys your age, unfortunately, they don't give you that validation. And so because of you're just consistently getting worshipped at work, people praising you, when you get that even keel response from a man, some women, they just don't tolerate that. They need that frolicking. They need that dependence. They don't like feeling dependent on another guy. Again, most likely it occurred because your trust was broken growing up. That's what usually happens. And you can't just fix that by doing mental spinneroonies. And you fix that by establishing some form of trust through honesty. And you first, like I said, honest with yourself, develop that honesty with God and with someone else, and then it expands to your other relationships. I understand that resentment and unprocessed emotions in some women will create a lot of masculine energy, a lot of aggression, a lot of desire to control. Repressed emotions, denial of things will cause that, you know? That's why it's so important that if that's how you are, it's a good thing that it helps you in your success in business, but sometimes our traumas can help us in life, but not in our personal relationships with others and ourselves. And that's something you have to understand, all right? Next one is, men respect the masculine in a woman, but fall in love with the feminine, okay? Now, I'm not, Jesus Christ, this Pitbull's gonna be so pissed off. I'm not telling you guys, masculine energy doesn't mean having Pitbull energy, okay? And by the way, if you guys think I discriminate and that I'm a Pitbull bigot, just watch the previous video on my main channel. I made an apology video for all the Pitbulls out there because I believe I've been discriminatory towards Pitbulls because of how they look. You know, my racism sometimes comes out that way, right? But what I mean by this is that a man will fall in love with your feminine But the only way for him to respect that love is for you to develop some of the masculine. And the masculine in this case is putting boundaries, right? Learning how to have that sternness every now and then. Knowing how to be independent, right? Knowing how to have your passions and be selfish every now and then. Follow through on your words and know when to be harsh when necessary. Because a lot of the times when you have too much feminine energy, you become too much of a people pleaser and you don't know how to turn that off. And that resentment of people taking advantage of you will cause you to sometimes be too over-calibrated towards a masculine. So it's important to learn how to give love, affection, softness, soft caresses. But when a motherfucker's fucking up, you gotta learn how to push them away every now and then. You gotta learn how to create that distance. You gotta learn how to make them feel your absence every now and then, right? You gotta learn when to have those tough conversations, right? And not give up until they give you a clear answer, right? You got to learn when to punish a guy for disrespecting and not forgiving all the time, because a guy could love you, but if he notices that you have that there's a part of you that lets others take advantage of you, like he's gonna say, if you do that with me, you do that with other guys. And I'm gonna be honest with you, most guys don't want someone who other people take advantage of. They just don't. And even if they do have you, a part of them will want you to have that harshness in your personality every now and then, right? It's not like you become a bunch of Terminators, right? But every now and then you show that the harshness. All right, next one. All right, next one is he's not confused. He's just not that into you. She's thinking, oh my God, is he busy? He's confused. He's scared to show love. His granny died. His granny didn't die, okay? He's just not that interested. Listen to me, man. The guys that like you are not confused. It's just how that works. It's like a crackhead being confused whether or not he's gonna use crack. They know what they're gonna use, okay? When a guy is acting confused, whether or not he's confused or not, it's never a good thing. You want someone who isn't wondering if he wants something with you. You want someone that has their, sorry about that, yeah. You want someone that isn't confused about whether or not what he wants with you. If a guy's confused, if a guy's uncertain, that's a red flag. He's just not that into you. You want either complete certainty or get the fuck away from me, plain and simple. The problem is that when you allow that, it breaks your trust in guys that definitely deserve the trust. For the simple being is that you entertain sinvergüenzas, manganzones, atrevido. You entertain those guys that are just there just to have a good time, right? That they don't know what they want. I'd rather wait and see what happens. I tell you guys a story of this guy that I met at this meditation retreat, and he was my roommate. And I asked him, all right, so what brings you here? I asked him where's he from. He was from Texas, and he told me that he bought a house, he bought a car, and he got a beautiful home. And I asked him, why did you get that? He was like, well, because I want to get married. I'm ready to settle down. I'm just waiting for someone. That's when people, let me tell you something, when people want something long term, they prepare for that shit. And they're looking. And if you're not it, they say she's not it. They don't wonder, they don't go Scooby-Doo mode. They don't think about whether or not it's it. They know that this is what they want. That's what you have to understand. It's a very clear, we're talking about dopamine. When somebody likes you and they want something long term, it becomes a compulsion and they can't control it. We want them to control though with their libido. If you say no sex in the beginning, we want to see that. But his desire to be with you and to make something long term should be a compulsion. So they shouldn't be able to control themselves. You do not want to see control. You want them to be crazy for you, at least just to connect with you as a person. If they can't control the libido, that's something else. Men, we all know this one, but it's not obvious when you're going through a tough moment in your life. It's not obvious when you have low self-esteem. And again, I always tell people this, low self-esteem is not your fault. Low self-worth comes because your parents should have when something bad happened, when something disappointing happened, they should have reassured you and told you it's gonna be okay. Most likely it didn't happen. And if it did happen, they did it in a way that you didn't trust them or believe them. It's a very normal thing and very common. I just have to let you guys know. But when men will keep seeing a woman out of convenience. It's like people say, oh, why is this 70-year-old guy with this 30-year-old woman? Doesn't he see she's trying to play him? No, he doesn't. He fucking doesn't. Most likely, he really believes it. He's gonna die. When you're confronted by death, you use escapism, right? And you hope that someone can save you from this fear. When a woman comes, she validates you, you're gonna wanna believe it. It's confirmation bias. So what's obvious to us, a lot of the times, may not be obvious to them. And this is where the problem happens, is that you think this may never happen to you because you think clearly, you know? This is something that is very common because I work with guys and I work with women, and you see this often, where a woman will think that just because he's with you doesn't mean he wants you. Well, if you look at this guy, she's like, oh my God, he loves me. And he's like, I'm just good in the poom poom. She's convenient. She's not special. Everyone can see that he's playing her except her. That's what happens, right? And she kind of knows this. If you really see it, like she kind of knows it, but she has no other outlet for happiness. She has no other outlet. Most likely a lot of people disappointed her. And a lot of times the people who we trust hurt us, so you gravitate towards novelty, towards newness as a way to feel better about yourself. It's a very normal thing. Understand that, right? So what she doesn't know is that doing more for him doesn't make that guy love you more, right? Just because when a guy sees you as convenient, doing more for the guy doesn't make him stay more. You're just a dopamine hit for him. And eventually, no matter how high the high gets, the dopamine is gonna get less and less. He's gonna start to see you less, treat you with less respect, and that's gonna hurt you more. And you're gonna chase that magic dragon that high he gave you from the initial validation. And you're gonna create distance, and it's gonna work, but eventually he's gonna go back to his default state. Eventually he's gonna leave you, you know? And so there's nothing that you can do to fix these situations, especially if he's the type of guy that seeks dopamine. In other words, especially if he's the type of guy that's actually empty, because these types of people are empty inside. They do lack self-love because they also lack the self-love. And I bet he's happy with another woman. No, this motherfucker right here is lonely. He's using you. What do you think is gonna happen eventually? You're gonna leave him. He's gonna find another target. And yeah, it might take a few times to find someone, but the failure to find another target is gonna hit deep in his heart. And it's gonna torture him. So it seems like these guys are winning, but they're losing, because to get you took a lot of pain, he sacrificed a lot of his self-esteem for little moments of validation and self-worth, for the little moments of feeling superior to you. They don't win. They really don't. It's one of those unfortunate things. This is why doing more, doing spinneroonies, doing backflips, getting him to like you, telling him exactly what he wants you to hear, learning that new sex technique is not gonna change how he feels about you. What you gotta do is do less and find someone who likes you for your simple existence. For your simple existence. But unfortunately, life never validated that belief. And the reason why is because you gravitate towards people who need more. So when you try to do less, he gets turned off, and then you blame Father Alex for my strategy is not working. No. Most likely my strategies don't work is because you're going after guys who are shiny, who everyone else wants, who radiate materialism, who radiate superficiality. And the emptiness inside of you is what becomes attracted to that superficiality. And you think everyone is like that. It's like, no, it's the emptiness is attracted to also emptiness. And that emptiness needs a novelty for it to feel alive. It's an addiction to newness, an addiction to stimulation. Let's continue.
Last but not least, sorry. Men do not, and this is a big one. Swear to God, if y'all break this rule, this is a sin against manlyhood. Okay, let me tell you something. Men express their emotions differently than women. Okay, men do not. It's never good to if you guys need to talk about something. Now, let me say this. It's very important that if you need to communicate with your guy, to communicate and keep in mind how men communicate. Vice versa, if a man needs to communicate with you and understand you, he also needs to understand that women communicate differently. So for all the people who be like, oh, Father Alex, why don't you tell men to communicate the right way? Well, I'll make a video about that on the other channel. Okay, we're talking about you guys. Oh my God, Father Alex is black. Get out of here. I am, but you know, it's because of the shadow. So this doesn't work. Okay, right here. This does not work, okay? You and him, look at him, he's pissed off. He's angry, ladies and gentlemen, all right? So that type of communication just doesn't work for the simple being that guys, usually the way guys communicate is through activity, vasopressin, right? Guys prefer to communicate not through eye contact, right? So that means that, let's move this right here, people. That means whenever you talk to a guy and you're like, oh my God, speak to me. Why don't you talk to me, Tyrone? Why don't you speak? Why don't you express your feelings, Tyrone? Wait a minute. Let me tell you something, man. Stop talking about Tyrone, okay? Tyrone is a man with a family. Bring up another name. Bring up Jamal, the running back, okay? Tyrone is a family man, and my wife has been having a tough time listening to you talk about me like I'm a player, all right? Anyways, I gotta go. Oh, sorry about that, people. So yeah, you want to communicate, rather than communicate eye to eye whenever there's something serious like this, it's better to communicate side to side, okay? And if you guys are communicating side to side, it's better to talk about things that are very important through activity, right? Why? Because men internalize their emotions first, okay? And then talk about it later. And a lot of times, whenever you try to directly talk about issues directly without any side activity, guys unfortunately feel the pressure. Like they really do feel the pressure. Men talk over shared activities better. So if you want to get your point across to a man, find an activity, especially an activity that releases vasopressin. Okay? If I would tell guys to communicate with you guys, I would communicate with women by releasing oxytocin. That whole eye contact and I can feel your soul type of shit, right? By the way, this is the vasopressin molecule. So that means talking over chest. Shit, talking while you're walking, talking while you're cooking, talking while you're playing basketball. I don't give a fuck, right? And another thing about guys is that men need time. So when something goes wrong, you can't just talk about it instantly. That's how women prefer. Men need time. As a guy, if I piss you off, if I'm a guy, and I'm a guy, obviously, right? If I make you mad, yeah, I will want to talk about it now. But if you need to talk to me as a guy, it's best to wait a little bit, let those feelings internalize, and then talk about it. It's your job to understand his love language and vice versa. Okay? And the reason why this works is because the activity regulates his emotions. That's why sports helped so much. Even Kobe Bryant always talked about how he would express his feelings through playing basketball. Right? This is how he expresses frustration. Men have more of a physicality when it comes to their emotions. more of a physicality. They like to do things, and above all, like in this, they prefer to talk side by side, right? That means that if you're gonna talk to him, and there's a way to talk to him, don't go eye contact. Side to side is better, okay? And what are some things that will get in the way with communicating with guys? One, men who are filled with lust. Those freaks, it's hard for them to actually talk to you directly and to communicate their feelings, okay? So remember, they need time, okay? Wait a while before you communicate. That's why guys sometimes escape when they're very stressed out, and then they come back. If you struggle giving a guy space, that's problematic. That's problematic. That's too much pit bull energy. Or better yet, that's too much pit bull owner energy. That's too much pit bull owner energy. All right. So men are more likely, less likely to ask for help. Right. That's one thing. So it's better to have shared activities that you guys do together. And that if you have the more shared activities you guys have, there's higher likelihood a guy's gonna express his emotions around you. That's just a fact. The higher likelihood. Remember, I dated a girl who played video games with me a lot. When I used to play video games, she would play 2K with me when I was much younger, and we would talk about everything over 2K. Shit, I confessed some things I should not have confessed. You know, it's just much better to do things while doing something with them if you want to talk about something serious. All right. Anyways, so let's summarize this, people. It's very important to summarize. Oh my God, Father Alex is going crazy. Yeah, it's a little crazy today, people. So remember, a woman. By the way, if you guys want to learn more, and you guys want to book a one-on-one phone call with Alex, click on the description down below and book a phone call with me, and you can talk to me on the phone. So remember, a man will treat you how his daddy treats women. Okay. Some men don't know who you are. Some men don't show you who they are. They slowly reveal to you who they are, right? A man's promises matters less than his promises, than his patterns. Some men don't control their lust. Their lust controls them. Men that fall in love are dangerous. Most men, speaking of dangerous, Michael Jackson, most men aren't actually intimidated by successful women. They're just intimidated by your freaking masculine Terminator energy. Men respect the masculine and fall in love with the feminine. He's not confused. He's just not that into you. 9, men will keep seeing a woman they don't actually like out of convenience. And last but not least, men express their emotions differently. They prefer through vasopressin rather than oxytocin. Okay, that's very important to understand. So that whole, oh my God, I'm gonna talk to him after we have sex and just hold his soul and look deep into his eye and express shut the hell up, do something fun, have some activities, go hiking, walking, do something, and then talk about it during those moments. It's his job then, whenever he needs to talk, whenever he needs to have you express something, for him to understand your love language and do that whole holding hands and looking deep into your soul and feeling your essence. Like, that's his job to understand that part. Okay? All right. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about this. For one-on-one coaching, go to mindfulattraction.org. Check out my course, The Commitment Formula, by clicking on the description down below. Take care.